Welcome to Timberborn and the settlement of the Steeltide. If you're just joining in, we are playing on hard mode on the Terraces map, and this is an absolutely massive map with tons of building options. Now on cycle 19, we've only had the chance to develop our small corner of it, but now that our colony is getting more and more advanced, we have the options to start building way more interesting things. And that's exactly what we've got planned for this episode. We've got a big expansion to our main dam, we've got a whole new aqueduct going in with new green space, we're filling in a whole new lake from a new water source, adding treated planks, and doubling our steel production. We just came to the tail end of our last route, and there's a couple odds and ends I'd like to take care of first before we start our next construction. First, we need to get our water pumped back in, which should start happening soon. You can also see I've got tons of debris here. And that's all from last episode, where we just upgraded our main pumping station. So we have way more pumps over here, and we're able to start pulling out kind of our haphazard organic growth pumps over here. So one of the things I'd like to do is start destroying and cleaning up all this debris that we don't need anymore. The other thing I'm going to do is I don't like this haphazard kind of structure here sticking out to the side. I'm going to flatten this out a bit. So we're going to get some dynamite going in. I think what we should really do is deepen this river. So this river is really what's keeping our upper mesa here irrigated. And come dry season, at only one high, that evaporates really quickly. I'd like to make that more resilient so we don't have to keep topping it off. So I'm gonna make this 3 deep all the way across. Next up on the agenda, you can see that I've still got beavers here working on a large power wheel. So I'm consuming 4 beavers all the time to keep this running. I'm gonna destroy that and replace it with a regular motor, just so I can free up those 4 beavers. On the same idea, I also have all of these inventors here. Last episode, or an episode or two ago, we introduced a number cruncher. And a number cruncher generates 10 times the science without any beavers being present. So you can see now we've got 24,000 science stockpiled. I'm going to delete all of these and get those beavers back. I see they're making progress on the dynamite, so I'm going to let them work on this while I start planning out our next build. A couple of episodes ago, I started to construct this bridge for our main dam over the ravine, and I haven't really done much with it since then, other than make a little bit more green space. I want to start expanding this now, though. I want to make this a bigger supply of water. Eventually, I think I'm also going to make this an aqueduct to start getting water out to this dead space over here. There's some options here that we can work with, but let's start with just expanding it. So 2 things I want to do. I want to make it wider and I want to make it taller. And at the time we didn't really have that option because we didn't have all these really nice larger overhangs. Now that we have this large one, I think what we could do is potentially get this all the way flush to make this square. So this could be one line that comes all the way down, and we can have this dam even overhang over this edge of the cliff. So first things first, we need a way for the beavers to get up there to work. I know I have these stairs here, but I want something a little bit more central if they're going to be doing things in parallel. So what I think I could do is if I could get a piece across like this, I could have other pieces stacked this way on top. And that's going to build our foundation to get across. So first thing that's going to take is a double dynamite here. And I think also a bunch of single dynamites down here. So something like this. You know, and I think we might need another level of dynamite right there too. That way we can kind of make an overhang in this direction. Now, if this is going to hold water, the next thing we're going to need is impermeable floors on at least that section. And then we're going to be able to build the levees all the way up. And before I forget, I just noticed in this corner, last episode, I had a problem with the bad tide kind of overflowing when these opened up. I'm going to finish these off too. I don't want a repeat of that. Now, that last piece finished up, so I just extended with a little bit of overhangs, and I put some levees to even it up. To speed this up, I think I'm going to do, again, that bridge technique. I think of this as kind of installing like a construction crane over top of everything. Now, that takes care of making the dam wider. Now we need to make it taller. And the reason I haven't yet is I wanted to figure out a way to put overhangs into the dam's, I guess, superstructure. And then these would be the foundation for the aqueducts. So for the aqueduct, I don't want to make it too wide. Like, I want it to go over the trees, but I don't want to make it look like I'm burying the trees. Even though the game doesn't care, I know the trees need light, and I don't want to cover them completely. if I build an aqueduct, I'd like to make it at least 3 wide to limit the evaporation. So that, in practice, with the edge pieces, that means you're up to 5 wide. So let's just take a look. If we were to do something like that, and we'd have one more piece here, we then would have to turn and build in the other direction. So for now, I'm going to tear out a couple of these trees just so we can figure things out. For over here, instead of using platforms for that, what I would like to do is overhang into the structure like that. So it kind of looks like there's this archway and open space there. And of course, that's going to cause this part to leak. What I'm going to do to counter that is I'm going to build a little hidden structure on the interior of the dam that's basically going to block those off. And I know it's not complete. I'll have to wait for these beavers to clear out of there. And then all of those can sit on top of it. In the morning of the drought, and we've got a 27-day drought. It's a decently long one. We're slowly inching up to 30, which I think is where we're going to max off. I see that we have got a good water supply. I think what I'm going to do is just pause all but a couple of our pumps. At close to 100 beavers, we need maybe 5k water. And we're up at, 4.6. As long as we just keep it at a high level, like as long as we just don't drain it all, we should be fine. Other than that, I think the rest of the colony is self-sustaining at this point. We've got good food, good water, lots of extra supply, some bad water in here. That gives us some time to keep concentrating on building here. While they're working on that, let's figure out the rest of our aqueduct. Now, let's just figure out brute force. What would this look like? Well, I think I made a mistake, and I built it one too little over. So that's kind of a bummer. And I'm guessing if I put smaller platforms there, I built this across, how far would I get? I could do that, and surprisingly that's enough clearance for those trees. And actually this would work out. This is a happy accident. We could then build that direction over that way. Yeah, that's looking interesting. And I think we just need to repeat that process one more layer. So I think we'd put something like that, the platforms that way, and that gives us that foundation. And in fact, I think I'm going to continue this. I know I originally was thinking of this being a bad water, extra supply of water, but I think the bad water, we could do other things with it. This would be a good source of greening this entire corner of the map for a long period. So I'm just going to continue this dam structure all the way across. So that means our next step would probably be somewhere up here. That's looking pretty good. And, what we could do, that I'm not showing, is we could put basically sluice gates all the way through here to fund water below. For example, if we had a sluice gate here, we could then fill in this lake down here, that little pond. And we can do that similarly across different parts of this dam. So we could have different water ponds, we could have different aquatic farms, and that's going to work out great. Something that is going to be tricky is actually building this, though. The beavers have to be able to get to the foundation of an aqueduct before they can build kind of the overhangs. So that means that this part right here, the beavers need to actually be able to build this part, and then they can get these two overhangs. So it's not like they can just build this in a line from one end to the other. The other thing I'm thinking is this is going to take a ton of metal blocks. And I had paused our metal block production early on because we ran out of scrap. I should resume that, especially since we've got scrappers picking up new scrap over here. But now to figure out this foundation construction, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make basically a crane to help with this. I think as long as we can get up to this top layer here, we have a way of starting construction. So I'm going to build stairs all the way up. And this is going to get all of these foundations. That's basically going to lock all of these. But now we need a way to get to this foundation. And we can pull that off with a bridge. So you can see if I can get somebody to build here, that should be enough for them to basically dangle off the edge of that bridge and build downward, followed by being able to build this one. And if we're lucky, we may actually, I'm not sure if they changed this. It used to be in the prior release, beavers could not build off the edge of a bridge. So if you're here, you could not build here. If they can though, what we could do is basically build the stairs down, and that would allow them to get off this bridge or this crane and build that way. So we'll see. We'll see if this is going to work. We'll see if that's going to allow them to get across. And if it does, we can just repeat the exact same procedure in the opposite direction. I see them making progress, but that is still going to take them a while to get going. Why don't we go see what other chaos we can cause? Well, our TNT up here finally finished. So we'll clear that out. In fact, we can probably get a little bit more laid in here too. And I know this is going to be disruptive to traffic, but I'm also going to delete that and try to reclaim this space too. And I could just build a bridge over, but I would like them to get some of that material back. So we'll be sure to prioritize picking up all this junk, that we can lay dynamite down there too. And finally, I think we can reclaim some of this space for farming. Canola oil, I think we could eventually use more of. So I'm just going to claim some of that for now. We can eventually change that. What other chaos can we cause? Well, I see that we've got 6 unemployed beavers, thanks in part due to our population boom. I'm going to split that up. One, we've got a lot of building going on, so one more builder's hut is not going to hurt. 2, we are always low on bad water, because it's such a haul to get out here. So I'm going to put down at least one more bad water pump. That also reminds me, as I look here, we do have all this scrap metal kind of marinating in the bad water. Eventually, we're going to come here and then tear all this out. And when we do, I would like that nice and dry. So low priority, we'll have somebody at some point come in there and wall that off. Other than that, I think we just need to give these beavers a little bit of time to build. And you can see after only a couple days, we've started to make good progress on this construction. You can see a couple of our construction cranes have gone in. And with that, I think they're going to be able to start building the next tier of this aqueduct. In the background, you'll also notice that pine resin started to be formed. And that is going to be really handy because pine resin is going to go into treated planks, which is going to unlock basically another tier of construction for us. So we should probably start fitting in some treated plank production here. Now, treated plank production, it is fairly power hungry at 250. And so one engine could only power, say, one of these. I think I'm going to do multiple of these. So if I put 2 in here, I'm going to have one doorway going in there. And with those 2 down, I'm going to put 2 different storage containers there. I'm going to have a small warehouse, and this one is going to take resin. And then I'm also going to put down a small industrial pile. And this one is going to contain the planks. And the idea of these is that they're just going to reduce the amount of time that the workers have to get their supplies from. And with the same idea, I'm going to put something down to hold treated planks. These are going to be supplying, and then the other ones are going to be configured to obtain. And since that storage is not going to be enough long term, we're going to put in another layer to our industrial storage over here. Just like that. That's the nice thing about the iron teeth. You can keep stacking these industrial piles. The flip side is you don't get the underground pile, which I really love because it has so much storage. Now, all of these are going to have to be built before the aqueduct. And now we need to power it. Now, for powering, I'm going to put down 2 engines. But that's going to give us a little bit of excess power, because 2 engines should be 800 power, and we're only going to consume 500. So I think with that excess power, we could probably produce some extra planks, which are going to be fed into these. Now, location of all this stuff gets to become tricky. So I think ideally, I would like this road to continue here, and probably another road down this way to make it easier to connect. So in practice, that could probably give us space here and here to make the planks. Now the problem is power. We need to get power to this somehow. And I think we could use the new vertical power shafts to make an underground route for the power to connect to. And then the engines, I think, could connect underneath them to these things. I don't know. I've never actually tried to connect to the bottom of an engine before. I'm kind of curious if it will work. So we'll dynamite underneath, we'll make 2 upward power shafts, connect them, and then fill in the extra parts with platforms. And then we'll put engines on top. Okay, and I'm gonna see. We'll build this, and then I wanna see if this upward power shaft actually gets power. Hey, and our engine's complete, but I forgot the engine won't run until it's actually connected to something. So let's try it. I'm gonna try putting the industrial lumber mill on top, which is actually pretty good because I'm noticing that one of our limiting factors for construction right now is planks. So these planks will actually be very useful. And it looks like that worked. Yeah, these are getting power through that engine. Okay, that's good to know. Now, I only tested connecting to the middle of it. I am curious if you connect to these edge pieces, if it still counts. But I will take that for now. That actually makes it very nice and compact to make kind of underground power. Okay, with all of our treated planks and plank production set up again, let's take a look back at our construction. You can build from the edge of a bridge. So this person was able to build onto the edge of this platform. So that's great to know. That means that we can now invest in repeating the same process over here. I think we finished most of our build queue for the vertical construction here. I think that means we can, one, get back some of this. This isn't doing anything anymore. So we can get some workers in there to reclaim some of that material. And then we can continue constructing the dam at this higher height. In fact, we can start doing that over here too. Well, this has been going on. Our population has finally entered a big boom. That's something I set up a long time ago that we're finally starting to see the effects of. So we're past 100 now. And that gives us finally a good supply of excess beavers to work with. A few things I'm going to do with this excess population. One, I'm going to make another hauling post and a builder's hut. I don't think we have enough haulers for our population now. And two, we should build another set of housing. And then finally, three, we should take a look at our food supply. We're pretty well at 2K, so we've got a nice solid supply. But that also means that we've got a lot of buildings that are just sitting quiet and not doing anything, which I don't like. Well, there is something I've wanted to do here for a while that maybe we could do now to solve this. We have space for additional logging that we never really get around to. I think if we could put 2 extra logs in there, then we made staircases up, we can make room for additional warehouses for more food here. Let's start by tearing out a couple trees so I can make some stairs up. And I think what I'm going to try to do is use platforms again, just to experiment with different ways of using it. So let's say I were to take platforms and stack them like that. I could then make a staircase up on the edge here that gets to all those different levels. And I could even repeat the same process over here to get access to those. And I want to minimize how much walking the beavers need to do from the food factories up here. So I could even make a platform like that to get access to everything. So let's see, all of these are now going to be logs for the second story. And I've got an option to put more logs here if I need to. And these are eventually going to just hold more corn and more corn rations. Okay, that should give us some more breathing room for our new population boom. And as I noticed, we've got, only a couple days before that drought comes back. We can make room with some of that extra TNT that we laid earlier. So I just need to wait for these guys not to be crossing this busy street. And with that little final bit dynamited away, we can replace everything in there with a bridge. You know, as I'm dynamiting this river out, that gives me another idea. We should be emptying some of this main dam too. We can make this deeper. I just need to be careful that I don't accidentally dynamite too deep that I hit the edge of the bottom of the bridge, but that would give us a little bit of space. We would have to probably make our sluice gates down here a little bit deeper to let water flow out, but that would give us at least storage up here to keep things irrigated longer. We do have a very deep dam to actually get down into though. We could get rid of some of that old scaffolding that's existed for a long time. Maybe start putting down some TNT in here. Okay, that'll be the first layer, and that's going to be low priority. They can just kind of chill on that in the background. But with that, our drought is over, and we've got water coming back in. At the end, we did run this dry, but that's because I turned the pumps on at the very last day. We'll take advantage of this wet season by filling everything up and getting those pumps running again. So we should get maybe 7 days of water flowing, which should be more than enough to fill that all up. Overall, for the 30 days of the drought, we did make pretty good progress here. I don't think we're going to make this sealed off before the beginning of the next wet season, but at least we did get it widened, and we got the start of our aqueduct going. Of course, I've been interrupting the beavers with all these side tasks. That's why they probably haven't made too much progress on the height here. Just like this project, which has taken up their time. And we've got our excess corn rations finally being filled in. At day 4 of the wet season, it's only now that we're starting to fill up our main dam again. That is a lot of water that went down into this lower area. And of course, with our pumps at full steam ahead, they are draining the water that we are populating in here. Otherwise, things are looking pretty good. We've got our water almost stockpiled up again. Our food supply is inching up, and we've passed now well over into 100 beavers. And our drought is coming back. So we got the warning of the drought just as we finished filling our dam. I think we're going to reach the point where our 7 days of wet season isn't even enough to fill up our dams. Which is alright, because we've got extra water sources that I haven't been touching yet. Especially here and here. So we still have lots of options for filling up water on this map. And speaking of other water sources, this one is actually a really good one that we should start tapping into soon. Like, this one is wasted right now by just being dumped off at the edge of the map. But you can see here that they almost designed this map, or I'm sure they've designed this map, for you to intentionally dam this off, break these open, and then make a lake here. All you would need to do is dam up this little piece right here. That is another easy win that we could do and get all that space back. In fact, you could just make a little dam here, or another dam up here, and have excess supply, you know, to make it a little bit more secure. So that could be something we tackle soon. I don't want to do that just yet because I've been distracting these beavers so much with my little side projects. The drought's back at 29 days. Well, I think we're going to get a lot of building done in this period. Like before, I'm going to pause a good chunk of our pumps and just keep a few of them going to keep our tanks topped off. We do need more water as our population grows. In fact, we're clearing close to 130 beavers. If we were to last 30 days just on our stockpile water, we would need, you know, close to 9,000 water stockpile. So we can't afford to just live off of these entirely. Now, in terms of our aqueduct, I think we're ready for our next layer of cranes. So this can go up to at least here. The edges we can build, no problem. In fact, those can be built all the way up here too. Now, I'm not sure how high we're going to make these levees. We could, if we wanted to, make it all the way up to as high as the dam. We might. I'm not sure yet. At least here, let's speed this up with another crane. And just looking at our supplies, I can see that we've got finally our plank situation under control. Our treated planks are good. However, we are lacking trees. There isn't really a great solution to that because we don't have a lot of space left. I mean, the only thing we could potentially do is put down a few more loggers to account for not being able to keep up. But yeah, we need to start increasing our green space, which is where this aqueduct is going to partially come into play, as well as, you know, we've got other options over here too. I don't want to distract the builders from this aqueduct though. That is, as soon as that's done, then we can start moving on to some of these next projects. Something that we can do is we could speed it up with some more builders for what supplies we do have, because with that population boom, we did get another good chunk of extra people. We just put these on low work priority. Just a few days into the drought, and we're making good progress. Noticed our first layer of crane is no longer useful, so it could be replaced with a new one. And I'm noticing really right now it's the trees. It's trees and metal blocks that are our limiting factor. We've already got 3 smelters going and we are consuming it as quickly as they are coming in. And these trees, the only trees that we're not really completely exhausting are our pine, used for the pine resin. But this guy, we basically have an excess of pine resin right now. I'm gonna put in another lumberjack down here under our bridge. I'm going to put in an extra 2. I'm going to have these guys basically clear cut some of our pine trees that we otherwise are not using. We'll leave stuff next to the tapper because they're actually using it, but everything else that he's not able to get to, we're just going to leave to them. And you see them already basically clear cutting that, and it's just being immediately turned around and moved up here. And you know, we should finish the schematic for this aqueduct that we've got. So one thing is going to be the impermeable floors. Everything here that's going to be in the middle has to be stocked with that. And next, we're going to make sure that levees are going to be stacked everywhere. And finally, we're going to have a plan for the end of this levee. First, one thing I would like them to do is be able to use this water down here as like a longer term water hole. And I could do that pretty cheaply by throwing in some extra TNT. And then we could just put, you know, one sluice gate up at the top here that's just going to trickle feed water into it. Next, we're going to need to continue the water over to the edge here. So if we imagine that this is going to be a big holding tank for like a massive supply of water, we're going to need to get this aqueduct maybe to at least here. Actually, no, I see, now that I see this is perfectly level with this. We might as well just get this all the way over here. At least have the potential to use this as another green plateau. Yeah, I'm liking that option better. Yeah, I think that's the right height. Followed by those, and followed by that. Just perfectly reaching the edge there. And ultimately, we could put some sluice gates right down there, which are going to fill into this area. And then we could just cap off one side and make gates on the other. And that's going to feed into this pool. Okay, that's our plan. I also don't like this little hump here. Like, you see how this goes up and then back down? Long term, we're going to dynamite all that out. Make this a nice, flat farming area. That is looking pretty good. And we've got the shapes of this aqueduct quickly advancing. Now, oddly enough, I do see our population still inching upward. I'm going to slow down some of our breeding. I don't want to get this too high, more than our water supply can handle. And you can see I had to increase the number of pumps we have running because I noticed our water supply was inching down faster than we were getting through the drought. And if this looks like we're going to run out completely, I can always pause these. Now, given that we've still got a lot of time left in the drought, I do notice that this area down here is relatively stable green. And I think that's from this supply. And we are really hurting for logs. Basically, as the logs come in, we're consuming them as quickly as we can. I think it might be worth putting down another forester down here. Maybe 2 additional lumberjacks. And this is going to be a longer term investment too. So these are going to be oak trees. Fill out what space we can, because our construction efforts don't seem to be slowing down. Other interesting developments. Our bad tide supply isn't great. Our bad water supply isn't great. You can see that we've completely pumped this out for now. And so that means no more dynamite for this season. It's unfortunate. We should start making this deeper. Or, you know, we could splurge and get a bad water discharge, which would let us keep these going all through the dry season. Unfortunately, that takes a lot of metal blocks, and we don't have a lot of those just yet. That may be something for us to do after we finish this aqueduct. With our population boom, we still have more excess beavers, though. We have a lot of haulers. Haulers are usually a good fallback to get them assigned to, because it makes everybody else more efficient. But let's find some quick jobs that we can do to occupy them. Why don't we get some more scrap scavengers here to just empty this out very, very quickly. We can also afford a second forester just to make this guy plant faster. And we still have 14 excess beavers with all of that. Now, I have things I want them to do, but the problem is all those things require logs and metal and extracts and bad water and all the things that we don't have. So I'm trying to look for filler jobs just to keep them busy until we finish our main construction effort. And then I can free them up to do these other things. So one of the kind of really cheap things that we can have them do is tear out all this scrap. This is absolutely just busy work. So I'll just throw down a few industrial piles for the scrap and just have them start tearing it all out. For the remainder of this drought, I really want to finish the main extension to our dam. And this is going to be the one that's going to feed into the aqueduct. And I don't think we're that far from wrapping it up. At this point, really, I think we just need the sluice gates, and then we can more or less fill it to the top. Now, I'm going to put in 2 layers of these gates, and it's kind of an odd reason why. These gates can only set water up to their highest point. For example, for this bottom gate, I can only say it lets water go up to the top point of it. If I put this gate at the bottom, that means I'm always going to be able to access water at that height in the main tank. But really what I want is the water to be topped off up here. So to meet both of those conditions, I need 2 of these layers to be always there, which is kind of annoying and is kind of wasteful, especially when we're short on metal blocks. So all this construction in here, that's going to be our highest priority to finish, because we want that done before this drought ends. We're on this side. I think I'm going to put 2 sluice gates there in case we wanted to fill some of this lake from this angle. I don't think we're going to, but it's hard to put these in after the fact. So we'll just populate them while I've got the chance. As this approaches the end, this is definitely going to be finished in time for the wet season. So we've only got 4 days for just those few blocks. That's not a challenge at all. This part of the aqueduct will not be ready. In fact, I think we have at least another cycle before it's going to be good to go. So I'm looking for cheap wins that I can have in the meantime to get some more green area. Now, one of the ones I think we could do is what I mentioned over here, and that is this extra space that we have to fill in this lake. I think that is a very doable thing within one wet season, and for the money, for the logs, very cheap. So if we got beavers down here in a few days, and I'll set those as high priority, and this absolutely is the highest, that would dam off this lake. Next thing we would need to do is basically fill off up here somehow, because I don't want water exiting this edge of the map anymore. So we would need somebody to get all the way there. That is one long haul. Let's see, can I just demolish these? Well, I have to have somebody actually come here and demolish those. But we could, in theory, get somebody back all the way back here to build these. And probably be faster to get people working from two sides. Now, this is a little bit of a logistics nightmare because of how far away this is for everything. If we could get kind of a short industrial pile that is set to obtain of logs, that might help. But really, we don't have a lot of excess logs. I don't know if haulers will come out here. I think this is doable in the short time span that we've got, because we have a lot of excess beavers. In fact, with a day to go, we've also got our TNT down here ready to go. So I think this should be safe. There's no overhanging dirt, I think, here. Get this ready before the wet season comes back. I'll give us just a little bit extra water. I'll take every little bit of water we can from this main tank. Because last day of the drought, and we actually emptied all of this. So that's good to know. That's kind of the limit of how much this square of water can contain. I'll just preemptively open up this floodgate here to feed into the river and what little we've got left in our main dam. At 1 day left, that's fine. This is going to top off very soon. How are we doing on our Hail Mary rush job here? Pretty good. We've got this one already set, and this one still needs a little bit of time. You know, maybe what I could do to help speed it up if we're going to try to rush this within a day is have a logger cut these right here too. Yeah, these are going to be locally sourced trees for that dam. And cycle 21 begins. You know, I'm going to take all our pumps, get them going, even our side ones that we don't use that much. And one thing I am going to do, I forgot to set this earlier. All these scrappers, they should be very low work priority. They're just there to fill up time for the beavers I don't have a purpose for. And if available, I want them on pumping duty. Same with all these excess ones I built over here too. I'll keep 4 just on regular duty. Before I start messing with opening up our second storage, I want to make sure we get this water tank filled up. I think last time that took until day 3 before it finished. Otherwise, how is our construction crew doing over here? Well, this is an awful walk. They don't get to build too much, so it's going to be a stretch to see if they can get through here. You know, something I might be able to pull off cheaply too, I could put some double floodgates in here, and then maybe use these sluice gates to fill in the lake if I can't get the other one finished in time. Let's get rid of those. We'll get rid of that stairway, we'll put in those, and we'll see. In fact, we're going to be able to test this whole new system pretty quick, because I think that just topped off. So our main dam, yeah, it's starting to fill in now at the end of day 3. Oh, I just realized I had this one set incorrectly. It was supplying instead of obtaining. We'll see if we can get haulers coming in with it. This guy, these guys have been basically supplying all the logs for this construction though. At the end of day 4, our main dam is full, so it's time to start testing our new tank. Oh, look at that. We've got water coming in. Oops. This guy, yeah. Everything here is configured okay. It's just it was reaching equilibrium. So we'll pump all our excess water there. And we haven't been notified of the drought yet, so that means we've still got at least probably 4 days of good water coming through. Good news is up here, I think in a day or 2, they're going to finish this. And I already see this water starting to back up. Then I think this guy has enough logs, they don't need to obtain anything else. And this guy, I'm going to go ahead and close. This other water supply is going to come online soon, and it's going to be able to top this up on its own. Yeah, that gives us a couple days to top this up as much as we can. Given that this is also working pretty well, I'm going to destroy this little center area now. We don't have to mess with the levees anymore. We can just keep that nice and stable. In fact, to make it easy to get over to the other side, maybe we can just put in a little set of platforms. And there we go. That rush construction actually made it. So we'll empty out that warehouse. But that's good. This is going to give us an extra supply of water. And with that, we can actually get our beavers continuing their work up here again. In fact, I'm going to use that excess green space for some more trees. Put in some more logs, and then we can keep these guys down here busy with planting more oaks. I don't know what it's going to look like once this water runs dry, but we'll see how we can make use of that space. And our drought is back at 23 days. That is going to be a shorter one, which I am thankful for, especially because with our increased population, we just chew through all of this water. I mean, in the wet season, we did manage to get this back up to 3.8k, which really is not a lot. I would have liked all of these topped off. Makes me wonder if we could fit another row of pumps here. This so like I could get everybody pumping through the wet season, fill up these tanks, and then have more control over being able to turn some on and off. I think we should, but really we're limited on metal blocks, so I'm not gonna do that just yet until we finish our aqueduct. We're actually getting pretty close to that, and that's absorbing all our metal blocks. With that in mind though, I am seeing our log count finally starting to inch upward, so we could potentially set up some more metal block production. We've got all this scrap over here, so this is probably a good enough place as any to do it, especially since we've got the mine here long term. Now I am going to resort to using engine still, which is kind of a waste. I don't like using it. I will at one point make use of this bad water and make a giant power wheel setup, but that is a massive construction, so I'm going to save that for a future video. For now, I'm going to settle for just putting down some smelters in the engine. So if I were to put 4 of these smelters down here, that gives us enough room that we could eventually have space for a mine. And let's see, where could we fit some engines here? Maybe here and here to begin with. So if that's the case, we're gonna have to make some space for some dynamite. Detonate that, and then we can get the power running right underneath everything else. And then finally, we're gonna need a storage pile to put everything in. That looks like a pretty good setup, and that's gonna chew through everything here. And then we have kind of a failsafe. We can start using this underground ruins once this scrap all finishes. Now, as we wait for the metal blocks to finish for this, let's take a look back at our aqueduct. So things are looking pretty good here. I think we're just really hitting the limit of no metal blocks to finish these. What we can do is start to finish some of the edges though. For example, in the next wet season, we're gonna be able to fill in this pond at least. So we'll maybe put those down, make sure the beavers are still building everything there, and then put down another set of floodgates. So worst case, we could always use these to finish off and then fill the aqueduct to the next stage. We will eventually have to get rid of this hole though. And before I forget, we can't actually reach this other end of the aqueduct. I need to build that process we did last time where I build a crane across. And as that gets built, it will probably be useful to have another staircase up here to access everything. We could use this very inefficient stairs and have another set of stairs to get inside. Once they can get this crane set up and this stairs, that's going to let them finish all the way across. And while we're here, let's preemptively deepen that pond. That's going to be a lot more water. And this gate is basically going to get the water up to there. At 4 deep, that should last a long time over the wet season. Now, if we're lucky at 13 days, with our excess metal production, we might actually finish the rest of this aqueduct, in which case we could potentially start filling up this. Now, I chose a very odd shape for this dam. I didn't square it off, I left it diagonal. And that's something I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it that way. I know that is not the most efficient shape. It is a very big pain to actually construct diagonal dams. But I like the fact that it's different. So many times you just build things that are square in this game. I think a diagonal shape would actually be interesting to look at. We went flush all the way with the mesa. It would look something like this. Now, before I get too gung-ho and build all of that, I do want the option to irrigate some land down here. I want to be a little bit more forward-looking, that I could supply some crops down at the bottom here. And this would be an excellent source to feed everything. So let's pause the construction of the top for a moment. And we're going to dynamite the base of this, just so I can see what's going on here. What I'm thinking is I could take 3 of these, and at their foundation, I could put some sluice gates. So say we dynamited those 3 locations. So where I'm going with this is I could put in some sluice gates here, here, and here. And if in the future I build a channel here to irrigate this little corner of the map, these are going to be able to draw down from this big dam. It's going to be a big pain if I'm not forward looking here, because I don't want to come back here later and try to put everything back in. Okay, that's looking fine to me. So as long as we build that early foundation, that's going to be a mini dam for us. And again, building diagonally is really going to be a pain. So we'll do what I can. I think I'm going to have to just splurge and pay the expensive cost for a bunch of platforms. At the very least, we might be able to speed this up by, building from multiple directions. We don't really have a good bridge access over here, though. Yeah, we could probably get access this way. Really inefficient, still a large walk, but we'll make do. With only a few more days left in this drought, let's take a look back at our aqueduct. It looks like we're just getting to the last set of overhangs. So we might actually have this good to go before this drought season ends. I'm going to prioritize getting these stairs done. I want them to finish this so that they have an alternative route so I can close up this other half of the dam, and we can finish our levee planning. Before I forget, before this all leaks, we need to have impermeable floors through all of that bottom. Thanks to those new smelters, we're also inching up finally in our metal blocks, so we should be able to afford these last overhangs. I also want to make sure that they're prioritizing these edges of the aqueduct before they get over to that other dam. In fact, I'm going to close off this edge of the dam already, since we've only got a few days left in the drought. 1.5 days left, and it's a mad dash to finish what we can. At this rate, I think we're going to make it for the wet season. This should only take a couple more days to finish at least this portion. And this part can wait if we need it to. It doesn't have to be finished just yet. And as the drought comes to an end, we're looking pretty good. In fact, we are going to finish this no problem. Put down another extra double floodgate just in case. And another set of stairs down so that they can finish this in their own pace later. Otherwise, they should finish that. Our water's looking pretty good at 5K. I will start the rest of our pumps so that we start filling up as much water as we can. And with our increased population, we might as well put another tank in there too. And with our dam starting to fill finally, I can see our aqueducts being populated again. Let's go ahead and fill in our next segment. Make sure it's working okay. Look at that. That is just what we wanted. And a whole new set of green space to work with. Oh, is this overflowing? No, it's closed. Should that be a little bit deeper? Yeah, I think I had it a little bit too high. Well, day 3, we've got the drought. We're going to have 3 days to fill up what we can. So let's make sure we've got this bottom one being filled up. I'd rather get this part filled up more than our aqueduct here. The next thing I'm going to start filling up is down here. Because you can see the beavers filled the first 2 layers of this dam, and this segment of our aqueduct is complete. We could actually start filling it in. With 2 days to go, okay, we did manage to fill this up. That's good. Then let's also go over here and then start filling in our second layer of our aqueduct. That's going to be open. These gates, oh, we need to configure these gates so they don't flood. They're going to go all the way up to, say, depths 0.7, and then they're going to close. And these guys down here, they can actually go all the way up to, we'll start with 1. And then if we get everything equalized and this topped off in the last day, then I'll start feeding it some more. Because I'd like to get this big dam filled up to the brim on our last day. Okay, that gives us one final day to top everything off here. And I think we're going to do it. With everything else kind of stopped, we can see this rising up. I think we should be able to get there in 0.7 days. We more or less did. We got within 1 block of filling this off again. But otherwise, we're looking pretty good. We've inched our water supply up to 5.7. We increased the size of our dam. We got this lovely aqueduct, a whole new set of green space to work with. We filled in this lake down here, and we've massively increased our smelting. And with this extra water headroom, there's a lot of other things that are really interesting that we can build from here. So this is really just the beginning. But I think that is going to be it for this episode. As always, I hope you enjoyed these videos, and I hope to catch you next time.